What is up, GOAT World? Arts and Crofts continuing to bring you in-depth coverage of the GOAT Format War League Season 6 playoffs. If you don't remember where we left off last time, we are honing in on the final quarterfinal matchup between tournament favorite Bug Catchers versus B.A.D.S. We are in the midst of watching a heroic attempt at a full team sweep here from B.A.D.S Chaos Control expert confuserei. If you don't recall how we got here, Wave 1 was a very, very successful start for our tournament favorites here, going 5-1, knocking out all players except for confuserei, as just mentioned. However, in Wave 2, the last matchup here, we saw confuserei defeat Matt Uber. So, having already defeated the two seeded players here, the two top MVP ranked players from the Bug Catchers in Betchy and Matt Uber. So, if you're a confuserei, maybe you could think the hardest parts are done already with the two top ranked players being defeated. But now you have this absolute gauntlet of Chaos Turbo players to go up against if you're going to seal the win for your team here in the quarterfinals. Chaos Turbo is a known positive matchup into Chaos Control generally, but as we'll see in a second, we do know that confuserei did do a lot of anti-Chaos Turbo configuring in their list. Now, as always, Bug Catchers gets to choose which of these four players they want to run out here against confuserei. They chose, out of all of their Chaos Turbo players, to bring out Bug Catcher Jose here, who we have featured earlier on this season on this channel as well, so definitely check that one out if you want a little bit more of a deep dive into this player. But as always, we're going to do a little bit of a, prep of both players' lists. So Bug Catcher Jose here, like I said, they are running Chaos Turbo, but they have kind of this new wave turbo list built here where they're main decking Mystic Tomato and Spirit Reaper, which is a little bit of a newer innovation that's popped up kind of as the playoffs have started here. It's a little bit of an anti-warrior tech. The idea is basically the Spirit Reaper acts like another Gravekeeper spy to kind of wall out the opponent, and Mystic Tomato allows you to just keep a body on board and search up that Reaper and go from there. I'm not entirely sure how this matchup specifically for Chaos Control. On the one hand, Tomato, like I said, the Tomato Reaper stuff is brought in specifically for Warrior, and generally if you're hedging one way towards Warrior, you're probably not hedging too far for the Chaos Control matchup. But I can also just understand a world where having a safe normal summon monster that you can just beat down with against a control deck when you're playing a mid-rangey sort of list like Turbo can be pretty good. So one thing to pay attention to as we do this feature match is maybe, how do these tomatoes perform? Could be cool to see. They're also on main deck Book of Moon, which is at least a nice little hedge back towards the Chaos Control direction, which will be nice. Flip down those Thousand Eyes Restricts, make their effects fizzle, all that good stuff. In the side deck, they are on a little bit of Chaos Control Smoke Screen as part of that anti-warrior plan, so you can see the creature swaps, the metamorphoses, and then presumably some scapegoats coming out of the side. Not really sure if you want to go that route against Chaos Control. You'd rather just probably keep the normal turbo stuff going on. Maybe you bring in the scapegoats to catch your opponent's creature swaps off. A little bit of a mind game there potentially. But overall, interesting twist on Chaos Turbo here out of Jose. And we'll see how it stacks up against Chaos Control, because I'm not honestly sure exactly how this new sort of strategy matches up against the non-warrior lists that it's, tweaked to beat. Now, if you've been following along, we've already seen a good chunk of confuserei's list here. Standard Chaos Control, you've got the Scapegoats, you got the Metamorphoses. Haven't seen any creature swap played so far from them out of their first two matches, so something to keep in mind. The one really interesting thing to see that I've mentioned in the past is they are on triple main deck Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, which, as I mentioned previously, right, they are definitely trying to pre-side pretty heavily for the Chaos Turbo matchup. Now, notably, I feel like Kaiku matches up kind of poorly against the Mystic Tomato Spirit Reaper thing, at least game one, because you're kind of tweaking your deck to be more aggressive, and so that's going to match up pretty poorly against the more defensive choices from Jose's Turbo list. As we saw last match, they did defeat Matt Uber, the Steingate aficionado, so we got to see some of the interesting stuff coming out of the side, like Asura Priests, Karibos, things like that, but probably not stuff you would expect to see brought in against Chaos Turbo. Without further ado, let's hop into the match. As always, as to not spoil the outcome, I have randomly, chosen which side we'll be watching from, but let's hop into it. Looks like confuserei won the RPS. Definitely bodes well for the Chaos Control player. Has to win this one and then 3 more matches if B.A.D.S wants to continue their run here in the playoffs. Going to lead out with a normal summon Sangan. So the normal summon makes me think that they don't have any high value flips in hand that they would want to bait out a knock for. But there are, of course, some potential mind games there. Just going to go normal summon Sangan, set a back row pass. Nothing crazy. Get a little bit of an aggressive beater on the board. See what Jose can do to stop this. Opening Thunder Dragon is pretty nice. Get that nice little +1. And then we're going to go T-set pass. Of course, really easy to wall out this Sangan. So just setting a Dekoichi or a Spy or something in the way is a pretty high value play at this point in time. Confuserei here really could use a knock to force through some damage with the Sangan, but you're going to get hit by a Trap Dust Shoot first and foremost, and we will get a Peek as well as Bugcatcher Jose into Confuserei's hand. So we can see that Solemn Judgment that they do have in the main deck is drawn early, which is not exactly what you want to see as a player running Solemn Judgment in a control deck. Generally, you want to see that later in the game when a lot of life points have already been taken away, right? Double Magician of Faith in hand with no spells to speak of, except for potentially this back row. And then a Tribe with no discard fodder. So not a very strong hand here for Confuserei. You can see why they went normal summon Sangan, because if it gets knocked, sure, you're baiting for these Magician of Faiths, but you have no targets for these Magicians of Faith. So you would rather keep the Sangan around, like that play. And then eventually, hopefully, at some point, you can, trade in the Sangan for like a Sinister Serpent to make your Tribe live is probably the idea. If you are Jose, you probably just send back the Tribe here, because if you send back Faith, they just have another one, and they're both pretty dead at this point in time anyway, so it feels like Tribe is just kind of the best card in hand. That's what they're going to send back. Definitely makes sense. And now you can play around Solemn Judgment and Mirror Force, which is really, really good intel as well. So very high value Trap Dust Shoot. Jose here off to a pretty solid start. Just with this intel that Confuserei's hand really just doesn't do a whole lot. Now, that does mean it will be up to Jose to get aggressive. Control player is fine opening a bad hand if they're not under any pressure and they can just draw a bunch of cards and stall out the game until their hand becomes good. So Jose has the intel that they can push here now for the most part, as long as they play around Mirror Force. But if they don't, then Confuserei will kind of draw out of this scenario relatively easily. So Confuserei just going to go shields up, saying into defense. Yeah, you're not really getting over any monster here, unless it's like a Night Assailant, but you're not going to be attacking into a set Night Assailant. Also, I don't think Jose is playing main deck Night Assailant anyway, because if you're on the Tomato Spirit Reaper stuff, not really going to happen. And so there, in a world without Night Assailant, there's basically no profitable attack here that this Sangan can make. So setting it definitely makes sense, or turning it to defense definitely makes sense to me. Just going to pass turn, not going to set that Mirror Force or that Solemn. Definitely would be nice to have those on the board, but because they're fully known off of this Dust Shoot, if you set either one of them or both, Jose will know exactly which of the two cards, or Jose will be able to know, what it's most likely going to be. So definitely makes sense in this scenario. If you're not under any major pressure, to just wait a turn, draw a card, and at least get something unknown in the mix to make Jose, a little bit more skeptical of what you might have. So here, let's see. They did have a early Dekoichi set, so that is going to resolve, get them another card draw. Could just go ram through this Sangan to start pressuring the life points. Definitely would make sense to me here, and that's exactly what we're going to see. Sangan is going to go search up that Sinister Serpent, but with the Tribe out of the hand, it's really just going to be a defensive wall at this point in time, so not the end of the world for Jose. And then main phase 2, we're going to follow up with another set monster and another back row. So nice early pressure here from Jose. Has a beater. It's already floated, so you don't really care if it dies. And you're being able to pressure Confuserei's pretty weak opening. We got the Raigeki break here in standby phase, so that is why the Sinister Serpent was grabbed. Not just as a wall, but also they had a card that they needed discard fodder for. They're going to go ahead and use it in standby phase to pop this set monster. Hitting another Dekoichi. Okay, so getting some solid value there. Good tempo play, Raigeki break. Going 1-for-1 thanks to the Sinister discard. And also eating up Jose's entire normal summon for the turn. So that's a nice play from Confuserei just to delay things a lot. It's important to prevent Jose from going wide here to make your Sinister Serpent a lot better. Because if you can just wall out a single monster every turn, Jose's not going to make any progress. But if Jose can profitably start attacking with multiple monsters, that Sinister gets a lot worse. Sure, confuserei has the mirror force to discourage Jose from going wide, but if you've already gotten, floating value from the monsters you're attacking with, you don't really care if your double Dekoichis get mirror forced for the most part. So that's a pretty big Regeki break there for confuserei to just delay things a good amount and keep their sinister better for longer, basically. And we're gonna go T-set pass. Really good chance that that's that sinister there set, but could be a new card that was drawn for turn. Back row, my guess would be mirror force, but could be something new. Jose here, gonna go just knock that, and now the sinister is gone, and now the shields are gone here for confuserei. Jose has to make the call here. Do we want to overextend into a potential mirror force? Interesting decision point. They're just gonna say, let me attack with this 1400. Got a good thing going, no reason to take a big risk. Makes sense to me. And now we're going to go set a monster, set another back row pass. So confuserei able to deal with the last set monster with that Regeki break, but going to need another one if you want to deal with this, or like a top deck knock. And with that sinister gone, harder to make Regeki break profitable as well. So Jose really kind of slowly grinding this one out here. From what it looks like, plenty of Yu-Gi-Oh! Left to play, but our Chaos Turbo player definitely solidly ahead at this point, I would say. confuserei finds the Graceful Charity. That is really, really solid when you have double Magician of Faith in hand, and no other powerful spells, or no spells at all, potentially. Now both of those cards are so much better. Of course, a little bit unlucky that your Sinister got knocked before this, so you're not going to plus immediately off of this Graceful unless you find... Well, yeah, I guess you're not playing Knight of Sound, so you're not going to be plussing off of this Graceful. But it's going to make those Faiths better, so definitely pretty happy to find this. Going to discard one of the Faiths, and then a Gravekeeper Spy. Okay, so Faith hitting the grave does get a Light Engrave, also pretty redundant, of course. Spy hitting the grave is interesting when you could really use a way to wall some stuff out, but we'll see what the game plan is from here on. Going to go normal summon Kaiku, so there's one of those 3 main deck Kaikus hitting the board. Can go ahead, beat over this Dekoichi, start banishing the grave, take Jose off of Chaos. Would be very, very solid if it connects. And could maybe even be backed up by a Solemn Judgment here, in case Jose has like a Mirror Force or something. We're going to go attack the set monster, which is just a Sinister Serpent. Wow, okay. So Jose getting a little bit tricky there. Setting the Serpent maybe to try and bait something out. And confuserei could have just gotten in with this Kaiku over the Dekoichi and banished stuff from the grave, which would have been tons of value here. But now they're just going to run into the Sinister, make no progress. The Kaiku, at least the Floodgate effect is relevant with Chaos live, but you would have just rather gotten those out of the graveyard if you knew that was Sinister, of course. So a little bit of a risky play there from confuserei, not paying off because they run into the Sinister Serpent. And Jose, once again, pulling a little bit further ahead here. Kaiku will wall out this Dekoichi. So we'll see if Jose can make any progress under this. But still in a pretty solid spot, I think. Gonna go set a monster, Dekoichi to defense. I guess the hand isn't amazing, right? Because we know, as confuserei typed out, there's double Thunder Dragon in hand, which isn't really doing too much just yet. But that is like a nice little insurance policy for Jose later on, right? At some point, they'll draw some discard traps, they'll draw Graceful Charity, they'll cash in those Thunder Dragons, and then this, like, near lead that they have right now will just be a solid one. So it's honestly an unenviable position to be in if you are the control deck in this scenario, because if the game goes long, Jose's going to cash in these Thunder Dragons, and so naturally you want the game to go long as the control player, but Jose has an insurance policy, so it's not really going to work out as well. Unless the game can go really, really long, you can draw your own Thunder Dragons and stuff, and recur this Graceful Charity, which is a lot to ask for. Kaiku is still sticking around here, though. Unlikely it's going to actually get its effect off this turn, now that the Dekoichi has moved to defense position, but at least is still commanding the board. Going to go kill the Dekoichi now. Jose, though, is going to go Raigeki Break, discarding that Sinister. Oh, so confirming that this set monster is not Sinister Serpent. So confuserei might have to be a little bit worried there. I guess Magician of Faith isn't too insane right now with just knock as the target. But something like a Gravekeeper Spy, or even like a third Dekoichi could be nice. Or even like Spirit Reaper, maybe. We're going to Raigeki Break this Kaiku, though, just to keep this Dekoichi alive. But you know what? Makes sense. You don't really care too much if the Dekoichi dies, but it is 1,400 attack points on the board in a matchup that you want to be aggressive in. So keeping it around definitely seems fine to me. And you might just want to remove the Kaiku Floodgate effect as well if you have some Chaos Monsters in hand that you want to activate. Confuserei is going to go main phase 2, activate Thunder Dragon. So equalizing that advantage from Jose, both players now have the double TD in hand. But Confuserei doesn't have Graceful left in deck to draw. So not as good Thunder Dragons, I guess. And they've already used a Raigeki Break. Tribe got Dust Shooted back. There are more opportunities here for Jose to get value out of their Thunder Dragons compared to Confuserei, is what I'm trying to say. We're going to go main phase 2, summon Chaos Sorcerer to get rid of this Dekoichi. Maybe making the read that Jose wants to keep their Dekoichi around because maybe they have a Tsukuyomi in hand that they want to start going infinite with. So coaxed into summoning out Chaos Sorcerer to try and banish the Dekoichi and break up that potential play. But Jose has that main deck Book of Moon ready to go, chaining on the Dekoichi, setting it face down, causing the Sork effect to fizzle. You're going to get another activation of this Dekoichi unless Confuserei has like a knock or something. And this is a really nice play here from Jose. Confuserei had to extend pretty early, summoning the Sork, not going to get any immediate value out of it. And if Jose can just deal with it quickly, that's a very large resource used for Confuserei early on in this game. That's not really going to do too much. Yeah, just going to pass turn. So if Jose can clean up the Sork, they're going to be in a really, really solid spot. Draw for turn, grab Sinister, flip to Koichi, draw another card. Really churning through that deck. We're going to Heavy Storm, clear out the back row. Potentially, we know Confuserei had a Solemn Judgment in the mix. But even if Confuserei has to Solemn this just to protect a single card, and it'll cost them 3,300 life points, you probably take that every day as Bugcatcher Jose, is my guess. We're going to chain Scapegoat. Okay, so Confuserei had the Scapegoat here. Going to chain it, so Heavy's just going to go 1 for 1. Dealing with that Mirror Force. Okay, so Solemn Judgment still in Confuserei's hand. But now the back row is gone for Jose to deal with this Sork any which way they so choose. Could slam their own Chaos Monster down, of course. Could go Snatch Steal. Lots of potential options here, depending on what's in their hand. It's going to go Graceful. Okay, so as prophesied, we're going to go cash in these Thunder Dragons very, very profitably. Double TD hitting the grave. Or no, we're going to have TD plus Sinister hit the grave to get an extra plus here. So really, really high value Graceful. Honestly, just Heavy Storming to get rid of the potential Solemn Judgment just to resolve this massive Graceful Charity is probably worth it, even if you can't deal with the Chaos Sorcerer this turn. But surely after having draw for turn, Dekoichi draw, and 3 cards off of Graceful, you found a way to answer this Sork. I'd be surprised if they didn't. We're going to go Battle Phase. Dekoichi will kill a Goat token. Oh, okay, so they do have the Souk Loop ready to go. I'm not sure if they had that when they made that Raigeki Break play, but they did end up drawing into it here. And you don't have an answer for Chaos Sorcerer just yet, unless one of these back row is something like a ring. But you don't really care too much about Sork in a world where you can, keep your Dekoichi face down, threaten the Souk Loop for tons of damage, or tons of card advantage, I should say. Sure, Confuserei can try and beat over the Dekoichi when it's face down, but that'll get another flip off, which isn't the end of the world. And that does play into a battle trap. We haven't seen Mirror Force out of Jose yet. So, sticky situation for Confuserei. Their Sork is living though, which is nice. They do also have Go tokens on the board if they want to go meta into Thousand Eyes to break up the Souk Loop that way. But that does just kind of lose to the Tsukuyomi if you have no battle traps to protect it. So lots of opportunities for Confuserei maybe to deal with this problem, but none of them are guaranteed successes, so it makes deciding what to do a little bit tricky. See what the play is. We're going to go Pot of Greed. That's always a good start to the turn, no matter what your game plan is. And we're just going to go and try and break up the Souk Loop by attacking into the Dekoichi. But that runs into the Mirror Force. Yeah, so Jose setting this up very, very nicely, saying, you know what? I'm going to let you think maybe you can run over this Dekoichi, but I got the Mirror Force. I can punish it. Sork gone after getting really no value. All it did was trade for the Mirror Force, which is a very, very solid trade here if you're Jose. When you're playing Turbo against Control, you're not really going to have a lot of profitable Mirror Force opportunities. So if you can trade your Mirror Force for a Chaos Monster, that is best case scenario. So definitely going to be really happy with that one. Duo is going to come through here, so potential to break up the Souk Loop. if they hit the Sook with the 1 in 3 chance off of this duo. You also have to use it now before the Sinister gets back in hand, and then you'll just never have another profitable duo ever again. See what they hit here. So found some goodies off of that Pot of Greed, clearly. They hit the Thunder Dragon, though, so now Jose, at the very least, can keep this Sook in hand to continue the Dekoichi combo. And they're going to discard a Mystic Tomato, yeah, which isn't doing too much at this point in time. So yeah, let's just keep our infinite card advantage hack going. Pretty solid. Now, big turn there from confuserei, though. Pot plus Duo, despite their Sork dying and not getting any value, that's just a lot of raw card advantage. They have, several turns into the game, established full Trinity here, which is pretty nice. Jose has only found that one Graceful Charity so far. It was a very good Graceful Charity. But in terms of raw cards, that Pot and Duo is going to be a bit of a blight. Still relatively even, though, especially with that Serpent in the grave. So anyone's game here at this point. Knock here on this new set monster from confuserei. Yeah, we're going to have to solve it. Yeah, so we did know confuserei had that single Magician of Faith left in hand that they did not discard to the Graceful Charity. With full Trinity engraved, going to be a really, really good time to try and have that Faith resolve. So they're going to be forced to Solemn this knock to keep the Faith around to go for this big play. It's kind of what they've been building to this entire game. And honestly, if that Faith resolved, they would have been in a really, really solid position. So paying 2,800 life for the pleasure might be worth it. I think if you're Jose, though, you kind of have to go flip to Koichi, kill the Faith. Sure, the Trinity piece will end up back in the hand, but at least you can minimize the impact. Koichi draw for turn. We're going to go Raigeki break it. That is pretty nice. Had that the whole time, by the way. Has the Sinister Serpent for the free discard as well. Killing that Faith, preventing the Trinity recurrence there. Yeah, that felt like confuserei's big moment to get back into the game. Unfortunate they went for it when Jose actually just had redundant set monster answers. They had the knock, which was more efficient, got answered, but then they had the Raigeki break as the plan B. And now that's both Faiths gone. Confuserei could be on the third, but that's pretty unlikely, especially in Chaos Control. They invested their Solemn Judgment into making that resolve as well, and so they're down to 2,800 life points. Sure, they have the Scapegoats to protect them, but this is a pretty solid turn here for Jose, dealing with confuserei's major threat that they were aware of, and dealing a good amount of damage to them as well, thanks to that Solemn Judgment. Flip summon another copy of Mystic Tomato. So, like I said, having an extra body that you're happy beating in with relatively safely against control can be pretty nice. It'll greatly accelerate how quickly you're able to get through these go tokens, which is pretty nice. And yeah, that's 2 down. confuserei has 1 left to go for a Metamorphosis play. But if they go into Thousand Eyes, right, like I said, the Sook is just going to eat their lunch. And this Sook loop is continuing to happen here. And I mean, how many Dekoichi resolutions have we had so far? It's honestly impressive that confuserei has kept this as close as they have, despite being under duress from the Dekoichi Tsukuyomi combo for so long. But it feels like Jose may have kind of gotten over the hump here and is grinding this one out. confuserei gonna go set a monster, set a back row pass. Set is not very scary with 2 Faiths in the grave, like I mentioned, so don't have to go too crazy here if you're Jose, is my guess. Grab that Sinister, flip to Koichi, see another card, all good stuff here. Can pretty safely not worry about Trap Dust Shoot here, I feel like. Not really the end of the world. Go Sook, flip the Koichi face down, clear out the last goat token, maybe attack the set monster with the tomato, we do. It is Tsukuyomi, so that will at least wall out everything that Jose's got going on here, which is interesting. So one last, just a big quote-unquote defensive monster here to try and wall out the opponent for as long as possible. Could be good if Jose has no way of getting through this. We're going to Sook, flip down the Mystic Tomato, and then try and finally break up this Tsukuyomi loop. Must happen, right? Otherwise, Jose's just going to run away with this. Ring to protect it, though. Wow, Jose has done such a good job of keeping the Tsukuyomi loop going, forcing confuserei to make somewhat awkward plays, like attacking with the Sorcerer, flip summoning the Tsukuyomi to attack over it, right? And Jose's just had an answer every single time. Whether it's Mirror Force, Raigeki Break, Ring at this point. Yeah, it's just too much. 1,100 points of damage ain't too bad either, dropping confuserei down to 1,700. Suddenly, Jose has lethal on board, right? We got Raigeki Break on the new back road, force through this. We're going to solemn that, though. So confuserei is saying, okay, I need whatever this back row is to not immediately lose. Going to drop all the way down to 850, though. A little bit scary. And yeah, Jose really just... The story of this game was this Tsukuyomi loop that confuserei was just not allowed to break up. And suddenly, Jose is just up a million cards. Has only 850 damage left to deal. Fire Potto Greed as well for good measure. Why not find your second Trinity piece? Flip Summon Tomato. Attack into probably a Scapegoat is my guess. Yep, that's what's going to come through. So just delaying the inevitable here at this point for confuserei is kind of what this feels like. Maybe if Jose had a little bit less life, this would look more possible for confuserei. But, yeah, a little bit tough here. Jose's not even going to go for a few further Souk Loop play here. Just going to set a monster and a back row. Potentially a little bit of Magician of Faith action of their own to grab some of these Trinity pieces back. Wouldn't be too bad. And confuserei, what can we do? Set a back row pass. Yeah, not really super scary here. Jose is going to flip out that Magician of Faith, grab the Heavy Storm, clear out the back row, and just go for game, right? Yeah. If this back row is Scapegoat, they can't chain it because they don't have room on the board, and you just go Faith plus Takoichi, kill the 2 remaining tokens, Tomato, get in for game. It is just hitting MST, and that is going to be game 1 there. Yeah, so like I said, story of that game, Jose created that classic Tsukuyomi Takoichi combo. confuserei just threw everything in the kitchen sink at it, but Jose had the answers to protect it, and they just kind of ran away with the game from there. And we are going to go here to game 2. B.A.D.S tournament life here. If confuserei loses, them and their entire team are out of the tournament, and 1 seed bug catchers will advance over to the semifinals. confuserei will be able to go first here. Once again in game 2, didn't seem to help them out too much in game 1, but we do know it is a solid advantage in GOAT format. They're opening Thunder Dragon here, so a little bit stronger of an opening last turn. confuserei did make it close with how bad of an opening hand they had there, and they did have a chance if they were able to force through a Magician of Faith resolution to recur some Trinity and make it, a game. But Jose just had enough resources thanks to all those Takoichi activations that they couldn't really go for any of those big, bomb sort of plays. And so they're going to be hoping for a little bit better of a start here in game 2. And Thunder Dragon is a solid one, if I do say so myself. Going to set a couple back row pass. Jose has their own Thunder Dragon here, so dueling double TD in both players' hands. We've got the Heavy Storm here. confuserei can chain the Scapegoat, so just once again going to be a little 1-for-1 trade here with the Heavy. But forcing out the Scapegoat, Asura Priest would go pretty hard here. Ooh, Xingchen Hu here. Not a card that commonly is seen in the side deck of Chaos Control lists. Definitely more of like a Warrior, even Earth Aggro sort of side deck card. And a little bit of an element of surprise, not going to really come to too much here thanks to the Heavy Storm clearing it out. But I do, it is a very good card against Chaos Turbo a lot of the time, so I don't hate seeing it. Not going to do too much here, though. Scapegoat going to get chained, put up a wall. If Jose has like a tribe, though, could be pretty solid for them. Going to go Upstart Goblin, dig a little bit further into the deck. Into Graceful Charity, we are just churning through here with the double TD in hand. Gonna get that delayed +1 really nice. Into Pot of Greed, this is pretty insane. So Jose here, once again, firing off a Heavy Storm similar to last game, just to clear the way for all of their powerful draw cards to go through. And when all is said and done, they're going to be up a million cards, right? Just thanks to TD Graceful Pot. It's pretty good. And they have the Tribe Infecting Virus to clear out these tokens essentially for free. Really, really insane. Has the Sinister as well, so this is just a free +1. So they've plussed off of the TD, they've plussed off of the Pot of Greed, and they've plussed off of this Tribe plus Sinister Serpent combo. And it is not looking good for the last hope of B.A.D.S here. As I always say, plenty of Yu-Gi-Oh! Left to play, but this is a pretty backbreaking opening here from Bugcatcher Jose. Being ruthless here in game 2 of this quarterfinal bout. Tribal Punch in for 1600 as well, get that clock going, really nice. It's already done its job dealing with those Scapegoat tokens for essentially free, but every little point of damage helps as well. confuserei has Breaker here, at least to take control of the board, recuperate some of the lost card advantage, so going to be pretty happy about that. Makes it a little awkward as well with that token on there. Bugcatcher Jose has to be a little bit wary about what they set until this Breaker is gone. Regrab that Sinister though. Tsukuyomi is a really nice way to deal with the breaker if this can connect. And even if it doesn't, you've already flipped it face down, so the token is gone, so you've already gotten a little bit of value. Raigeki Break going to come through, discarding one of those Thunder Dragons. Yeah, this is... I mean, sure, it's Thunder Dragon's not like a full card worth of discard, but it's one and a little bit more of a card to kill a Tsukuyomi that already got value by flipping this breaker face down. That is a lot invested in keeping this 1600 vanilla alive, essentially. And yeah, Bugcatcher Jose off to a really, really strong lead here. Gonna be tough for confuserei to bounce back, but this is a control deck. If they can keep it going to the long game, maybe they can grind this one out. Gonna flip up Breaker, get in for 1600. It is pretty clear that Jose must have a pretty monster-heavy hand, maybe a chaos-heavy hand, with no back row being played at any point here. They do notably have Chaos Live now with that Tsukuyomi hitting the grave, so another potentially not so great thing about that Raigeki Break play is you put a Dark Engrave for Jose to use. But at least you can start making some damage or making some progress on the life points here. Breaker gets in for 16. You can set a back row maybe to protected pass. At this point, you're really just hoping you can exploit the fact that Jose's hand seems to be a little bit bricked, despite the TD pot graceful stuff, and just try and pressure them as hard as possible, and hope you win before Jose can unbrick their hand, I guess is the game plan at this point. Let's see what the play is, though. Just going to slam down Chaos Sorcerer. Yeah, as expected, just waiting for that Dark to hit the grave. Breaker gets banished. Spirit Reaper to add insult to injury. Yeah, really good card. Just to rip stuff out of confuserei's hand. Going plus here again, hitting the Tsukuyomi. Yeah, Jose's just had too much card advantage over the span of 2 games, right? If we thought Tsukuyomi plus Takoichi was a lot, like, this opening was even more busted, honestly. Confuserei just going to set a back row pass. Jose, play around Mirror Force, turn the Reaper to defense. You know the last card in hand is just a Thunder Dragon, so really not the end of the world if you hit it with the Reaper. Get in for 23. Nice big clock here, using the more aggressive side of Turbo to their advantage. Add another set monster here with lots of goodies engraved to make confuserei even more worried. And yeah, not looking too good. We've got Nobleman across it here on the set monster, though. Hitting it to Koichi, you're pretty happy about that if you're confuserei. Set another back row pass, but do you have an out of this Chaos Sorcerer slowly but surely whittling you down? Now the Spirit Reaper does at least up the clock by a turn, so attacking with it does kind of make sense at this point. And you kind of checked for Mirror Force already last turn, unless this new back row is Mirror Force, but, you know, is what it is. Thunder Dragon hits the grave thanks to the Reaper effect, and now Jose gets to pass with lethal on board, up 1,000,000 cards. Add a back row for good fun as well. And that is just going to be GG. Yeah, looks like confuserei has a dead Metamorphosis. No way. Are all of these... Triple Metamorphosis here. 2 bluff sets and 1 in hand. Nothing to do. Honestly, at that point, it didn't really matter because Jose was just so far ahead. And that is going to be it for not just confuserei, but the entire B.A.D.S organization. So congratulations to them for fighting their way into the quarterfinals. Losing to the 1 seed is, of course, nothing to be ashamed of. confuserei made a hell of a match out of it, right? Taking down both Betchy and Matt Uber. But our 1 seed will win their quarterfinal bout and move on to the semifinals against 5 seed Damage Step. So, definitely, continue to tune into this series if you're interested in seeing how this tournament plays out. We have all of the semifinal matchups here so far. 1 seed is still in here. Damage Step, the only round 1 upset so far. 5th seed beating the 4 seed. We saw Bones Generation with a ton of momentum with that 6 and a sweep over Nemesis. And then Bomb Squad here has to be on a high, coming off of a victory over the defending champions, Rico Act. So all players with a lot to be happy about here heading into the semifinals. Very, very solid teams. Let me know what you think about this video, guys, down in the comments, and let me know if you are excited here for some semifinal coverage. There are only 4 teams left fighting for qualification for the World Championships here in the fall. Really cool stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I will catch you all next time.